Okay, so you want to know more about flirting techniques, right?
Hmm.
So we dove into this guide, promising 6 amazing ways to flirt with any woman.
Ah, yes, the elusive art of flirting.
Hmm.
Always an interesting topic to unpack.
It definitely leans toward kind of a heterosexual male perspective.
Right.
But some of these tips are surprisingly universal.
Yeah,
So let's see what works and what we might want to rethink.
absolutely.
What jumped out at you right away?
Well, they really emphasize confidence right off the bat and how important it is.
Yeah, confidence is always key, right?
Exactly. And you know what they said? You don't even have to feel confident to look confident.
Really? Is there any truth to that?
There is actually. It's pretty fascinating. There's this whole area of research on what they call power poses.
Power poses.
Yeah, studies have shown that standing in a confident posture, even if you don't feel confident,
Okay.
can actually change your hormone levels.
Wow. Seriously? Just by like changing how you stand?
Pretty much, it's like you're tricking your brain into feeling more powerful.
Ah!
When you stand tall, shoulders back, chest open,
Yeah.
it triggers this release of testosterone, which is linked to confidence.
Okay.
And at the same time, it lowers cortisol, which is the stress hormone.
Interesting. So it's almost like putting on a superhero costume.
Aha! I like that analogy.
You start to embody that feeling of confidence just by like changing your physical stance.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
The guide also talks about the opposite, though, like slouching, shrinking back.
Right. Looking unsure of yourself.
So exactly. All of that sends the wrong message and actually reinforces those feelings of insecurity.
So basically fake it till you make it.
In a way.
Yeah. Now they also had a lot to say about fidgeting,
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
like playing with your phone or
Yeah.
tapping your fingers or...
Right. All those little nervous habits.
Exactly. And they say those are like classic signs of nervousness.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be really distracting
For sure.
for the person you're talking to.
Absolutely.
So any advice on how to combat that?
Well, the guide suggests something pretty simple, actually. Keeping your hands in your pockets or clasped in front of you. It just projects a calmer, more focused image.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Next up was eye contact.
Oh,
And this is where things get a bit more specific.
okay. I'm intrigued.
The guide has this 3-second rule for eye contact.
A 3-second rule.
Have you ever heard of that?
I can't say that I have. Eye contact is one of those things that can be so powerful, but it's all about reading the situation, you know?
Yeah.
So what does the guide say about this 3-second rule?
Well, according to the guide, you're supposed to hold someone's gaze for 3 seconds.
Okay.
Then smile, nod, or even wave.
3 seconds can feel like an eternity if you're not used to it.
Right.
I'm a little hesitant about giving this advice as like a hard and fast rule.
Yeah.
It really depends on the context. You don't want to stare someone down.
You definitely don't want to be creepy about it.
Exactly.
But they do say that if you happen to get caught looking, don't immediately avert your gaze. Instead, hold it for like another second and smile and look away.
Interesting.
It's supposed to show that you're not intimidated.
I see their point. It's about owning the moment rather than being flustered.
Right.
But I think it's crucial for the listener to pay attention to the other person's cues, you know?
Yeah,
If someone seems uncomfortable, back off.
definitely. Good point. Okay, this one really made me laugh.
Oh no. What'd they say?
They actually suggest winking.
The wink, oh my. It's a classic move, but definitely risky.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you pull it off, it can be playful and charming,
Yeah,
but misjudge it and you might just come across as creepy.
exactly. The guide does caution against overdoing it though.
Okay.
They say to use it sparingly and only if the moment feels right.
That's probably wise.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to humor.
Okay.
Now that everybody appreciates someone who can make them laugh, right?
Of course, humor is so important.
But I was curious to see how the guide approached this one.
Yeah, me too.
Well, they stress that it's not about being a clown or putting yourself down. It's about being lighthearted and playful, not self-deprecating.
I think that's a really good distinction.
Yeah.
Because when you make jokes at your own expense, it can sometimes signal insecurity.
Right.
So yeah, instead focus on finding the humor in the situation you're both in.
Like they give this example.
Okay.
If you're waiting in line for coffee,
Yeah.
you could say something like, "Do you think this line is so long because everyone's ordering drinks with 10-syllable names?"
Haha. I like that. It's light observational humor.
Right.
And it's relatable. You're finding something to laugh about together,
Yeah,
which can be a great way to connect.
absolutely. Now, what about when someone's teasing you?
Ooh, good question.
How do you respond in a way that's flirty but also confident.
Teasing can be a really fun way to flirt, as
Yeah.
long as it's done right. The guide actually says that women use teasing to test a man's confidence.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like if she says, "Oh, is that your best joke?"
Yeah.
They suggest responding with something like, "Not even close, but I'm saving the best for later."
That's good.
It shows you're not taking yourself too seriously, and you can handle a little playful banter.
Right.
It keeps the energy light and flirty.
I like it. This next concept is interesting to me.
Okay, what is it?
The guide calls it creating push-pull.
Push-pull.
And it's all about using playful teasing to create a bit of tension.
Push-pull is a fascinating dynamic. It's about breaking rapport and then rebuilding it stronger.
Huh.
Think of it like a playful tug of war.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
So they suggest teasing about things like someone's taste in music or their cooking skills,
Okay.
but always in a lighthearted way.
Right.
And the key, they say, is to pair the tease with a compliment.
That's crucial. The compliment softens the tease and lets the other person know you're not being mean-spirited.
Right.
It says, "I'm challenging you, but I also find you attractive."
They had a pretty bold example, actually.
Oh, really?
They said, if a woman tells you she's a terrible cook,
Mm-hmm.
you could respond with, well, good thing you're cute enough to make up for it.
Wow. Okay. That's a classic push-pull line.
Yeah.
And it works because it combines a playful challenge with a genuine compliment.
Yeah.
It also adds an element of surprise, which can be really engaging.
And the guide really stresses that you have to pay attention to nonverbal cues when you're teasing someone.
Oh, absolutely. Body language speaks volumes.
Right.
You want to make sure you're sending the right signals with your tone of voice, your facial expressions, your
Yeah.
overall demeanor.
So a smile can make all the difference
Exactly.
in how it comes across.
For sure.
And of course, the teasing should always be reciprocal.
Right. If it's just one-sided, it's not flirting, it's just being a bully.
Exactly. It
Huh.
should feel like a playful exchange
Mm-hmm.
where both people are comfortable and enjoying the back and forth.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on to a topic that requires a bit more sensitivity.
Okay.
Touch.
Ooh, yeah. This is where things can get tricky.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The guide talks about the power of touch, but
Touch can be incredibly powerful, but it's also where it's easiest to cross boundaries and make someone feel uncomfortable.
right.
So consent and respecting boundaries are absolutely paramount.
Absolutely. So the guide recommends starting small and subtle,
Okay.
like a light touch on the shoulder,
Yeah.
or an elbow bump, or even a high five.
Those are all good examples of non-invasive touch.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a way to test the waters,
Yeah.
see how the other person responds. If they lean in or reciprocate the touch, that's a positive sign. If they pull away or tense up, back off immediately.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What about as the interaction progresses?
Well, they suggest gradually escalating touch,
Okay.
like a gentle squeeze on the shoulder or a light touch on the arm when you're saying goodbye.
Okay. But again, it's all about reading the signals and respecting boundaries, right?
Absolutely. You never want to make someone feel pressured or uncomfortable.
Right.
Better to err on the side of caution, especially early on.
Good advice.
Thank you.
Moving on to compliments. Now, the guide claims that most people, particularly men, get compliments all wrong.
I'm curious about that too.
Yeah.
A well-placed compliment can be incredibly effective, but so many people default to generic or superficial remarks.
That's exactly their point.
Yeah.
They say to move beyond complimenting someone's looks
Okay.
and instead focus on deeper qualities.
Like what?
Things like their style, their laugh, their energy, or their passions.
I love that. It shows you're paying attention to what makes them unique. It's about acknowledging the person beyond the surface level.
Right. So, for example, instead of saying, you're beautiful,
Okay.
they suggest trying something like, you have amazing energy.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing.
Perfect. It shifts the focus from physical attributes to something more personal and intangible.
Yeah.
And it's far more memorable than a generic compliment.
What about being specific?
Oh, specificity makes a compliment even more powerful.
Yeah.
It shows that you're truly paying attention.
Right.
Instead of, I like your outfit.
Yeah.
That color is stunning on you. It really brings out your eyes.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
The guide also cautions against overdoing it, though.
All right.
A few well-placed, genuine compliments are far more impactful than a barrage of flattery.
Absolutely. When you're constantly showering someone with compliments, it can start to feel insincere.
Right.
So choose your moments carefully and make sure your words reflect genuine admiration.
All right, last but not least, the guide offers a bonus tip,
Okay, what is it?
which is to tread lightly with sarcasm.
Ah, sarcasm. It can be so witty and engaging when it lands,
Yeah.
But it's also one of the easiest ways to misfire, especially early on.
Right.
Why do you think they included this as a cautionary note?
They say that sarcasm can be easily misunderstood, especially when you don't know someone well.
Right.
It can come across as rude or critical if you don't deliver it just right.
They're right. Sarcasm often relies on shared understanding and a similar sense of humor,
Yeah.
which takes time to develop.
Yeah.
So it's best to use it sparingly, especially in the early stages of getting to know someone.
So they gave an example.
Yeah.
If someone tells you they love karaoke,
Yeah.
you could playfully say, "Oh, so you're one of those shower singing superstars."
Huh.
But they emphasize that your nonverbal cues are key here.
Yes. A smile, a playful tone of voice, eye contact. All of those things can help signal that you're being lighthearted, not mean-spirited.
Right. So it seems like sarcasm is a tool that's best used once you've established some rapport and you have a better sense of the other person's humor.
Exactly. You want to make sure you're both on the same page before you venture into that territory.
Definitely. So we've unpacked this whole flirting guide, but now I'm kind of curious, like, could these techniques work in other situations?
Like, what do you mean?
Like, I don't know. Could you really use a power pose to impress your boss?
I think you absolutely could. Remember, power poses aren't about manipulating anyone.
Right.
It's more about shifting your own mindset.
Okay.
And that boost in confidence can make a huge difference in how you present yourself.
Mm.
Whether you're giving a presentation or just asking for a raise.
And what about eye contact?
Yeah.
I mean, that felt so specific to flirting,
Right.
but I guess it is important in any conversation.
It is. Making eye contact shows you're engaged and present. Whether you're talking to a potential romantic partner or a colleague,
Okay.
it builds trust and lets the other person know you're taking them seriously.
Okay, but there's a difference between confident eye contact and like staring someone down.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
Especially at work.
Yeah, I don't want my coworkers to think I'm weird.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all about balance.
Okay.
You want to maintain eye contact, especially when you're speaking, but also look away naturally from time to time. It shouldn't feel like a staring contest.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about humor?
Yeah.
I know some workplaces are more formal than others,
Sure.
but I feel like a little bit of humor can really help build rapport.
Oh, totally. I completely agree. Humor is a great way to break the ice, ease tension,
Yeah.
and create a more positive work environment.
But as with anything, context is key. So no telling off-color jokes to your boss, no matter how funny you think they are.
Probably a good rule of thumb.
Okay.
Stick with humor that's light, inclusive, and appropriate for the workplace.
Like what?
Observational humor,
Yeah.
self-deprecating jokes, or even just sharing a funny anecdote can work really well.
What about teasing?
Mm-hmm.
That seems a bit riskier at work.
It does.
But I could see how it could build camaraderie if it's done right.
It definitely requires more finesse in a professional setting. But if
Yeah.
you have a good rapport with your colleagues and you understand their sense of humor, a little playful teasing can actually strengthen those bonds.
Any tips on how to do it without offending anyone?
Well, first, know your audience. Pay attention to how your colleagues interact with each other and what kind of humor they respond to. And start with something light and self-deprecating. It shows you don't take yourself too seriously.
So instead of teasing someone about their messy desk,
Right.
you could joke about your own inability to keep track of your coffee cup.
Exactly. Poking fun at yourself is a safer bet than targeting someone else,
Yes.
especially in a work environment.
Right.
And always make sure your tone and body language are playful,
Yeah.
not aggressive.
So if someone teases you back, that's a good sign.
Absolutely. It shows they're comfortable with that kind of interaction
Okay.
and that they trust you.
All right. Touch is obviously a no-go in most professional settings, right?
Yeah, especially these days, it's best to err on the side of caution.
Okay.
A handshake is usually fine,
Mm-hmm.
but beyond that, it's best to respect people's personal space.
Sure.
Of course, there are exceptions, like a high five in a celebratory moment,
Okay.
but use your judgment.
Yeah, definitely. What about compliments?
Oh, compliments are fantastic.
Okay.
They're a great way to show appreciation and build positive relationships with your colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
It can do wonders for morale and team spirit.
But they have to be genuine.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Not just empty flattery. Right. It's about being specific and focusing on someone's skills, their achievements, their work ethic,
Right.
rather than just their appearance.
So instead of telling someone, "You look nice today,"
Okay.
you could say, "That presentation you gave was really impressive."
Mm-hmm.
I especially liked how you explained that complex data in a way that everyone could understand.
Perfect example. It shows you were paying attention. You valued their work, and you took the time to give them a thoughtful compliment.
And you don't have to be in a management position to give compliments.
No, not at all.
It's important to acknowledge the contributions of your peers and teammates, too.
I couldn't agree more. Building a culture of appreciation is good for everyone.
Definitely. Now, what about sarcasm? I feel like that one could go either way at work.
Yeah, you're right. It can be funny among friends, but it can easily be misconstrued in a professional setting.
Yeah.
Even if you don't mean any harm, it could damage relationships or make someone feel uncomfortable.
So maybe save the sarcasm for happy hour with your team after work is over.
That's probably wise. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about making new friends.
Okay.
It can be a challenge as an adult.
Oh, it definitely can.
But I'm curious to see if these flirting techniques might actually be helpful.
Yeah, I've definitely had those moments at parties or networking events where I'm like, how do I even start a conversation with a stranger?
I think that's where the idea of confidence really comes into play.
Yeah.
Walking into a room full of new people can be intimidating.
It can.
But remember that power pose we talked about? It can actually help you feel more at ease and approachable.
So before I walk into that networking event, I should strike a pose in the bathroom mirror. Like I'm Wonder Woman.
It couldn't hurt. But seriously, taking a moment to adjust your posture and remind yourself that you're interesting and you have something to offer.
Yeah.
It can make a difference in how you project yourself.
Okay, and eye contact is important here too, right?
It is.
But how much is too much when you're just meeting someone for the first time?
It's about finding that sweet spot between showing interest and making someone feel uncomfortable.
Right.
When you're introduced, make eye contact, smile, and hold their gaze for a few seconds. But then let your gaze wander naturally as you continue the conversation.
So I've made eye contact now. What?
Well, a genuine compliment is always a good icebreaker.
Okay.
Notice something you like about the person, their outfit, their energy, maybe a book they're holding, and mention it.
So instead of just saying, I like your shoes,
Right.
I could say, those shoes are amazing. Where did you get them?
Exactly. It opens up the conversation and shows you're paying attention. Another great strategy is to find a common point of interest.
Like if I'm at a book club meeting, I could ask someone what they're reading or who their favorite author is.
Exactly. Or if you're at a party, you could ask about the music playing or how they know the host.
Right.
It's about finding those little things that can spark a connection.
Okay. Humor seems like it could be tricky with someone you just met.
It can be.
Do you have any advice on how to use humor to make a good first impression?
I think it's about being observant and reading the room.
Okay.
If the other person seems receptive to humor, you could try a lighthearted joke. Or a funny observation about the situation you're in.
Okay. But maybe avoid anything controversial or potentially offensive.
Definitely. You don't want to alienate someone before you even get to know them.
Right.
Stick with humor that's safe, relatable, and good-natured.
So it's a lot like those early stages of flirting. You're trying to gauge the other person's personality and sense of humor before you venture into riskier territory.
That's a great analogy. And remember, making friends is a two-way street.
What do you mean?
Well, it's not just about trying to be interesting.
Okay.
It's also about being interested.
So asking questions, listening attentively,
Yes.
and showing that you genuinely care about what the other person has to say.
Exactly. People can tell when you're genuinely interested in them, and it makes them feel valued.
Okay, what about touching? Is that ever appropriate when you're just meeting someone in a platonic context?
It's definitely a gray area. In general, I'd say err on the side of caution.
Okay.
Avoid physical contact until you've built a rapport and you feel comfortable with the other person.
So no high fives or hugs with strangers?
Uh-huh.
Unless it's like a super celebratory moment.
Probably a good rule to follow.
Yeah.
And even then, pay attention to their body language and make sure they seem open to it.
What about teasing? Is there any place for that when you're first getting to know someone as a friend?
I'd say hold off on the teasing until you've had a chance to get to know them better.
Okay.
Once you have a sense of their humor and their boundaries, then you can start to introduce a little playful banter into your interactions.
Because what one person finds funny, another might find hurtful or annoying.
Exactly. It's all about building that foundation of trust and understanding first.
So it seems like a lot of these flirting techniques can actually be applied to making friends, as long as you adjust them to the context and prioritize respect and understanding.
That's a great takeaway. It's all about being your most authentic, engaging self. Whether you're trying to spark a romantic connection or build a lasting friendship.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From power poses in the boardroom to finding common ground at a party.
It's been a journey.
But before we wrap up this episode, there's one more area I want to explore.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about flirting. We talked about making new friends. But what if we took these principles and applied them to, like, ourselves?
To ourselves. Now, that's an interesting thought. Applying flirting techniques to self-love.
Right.
I like it. What do you have in mind?
Well, we've talked about, like, the importance of confidence, you know.
Right.
Genuine compliments, playful humor. What if we directed all of those things inward towards ourselves?
I love that. It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and appreciation that we would offer to someone we're trying to impress or befriend.
Instead of focusing on our flaws or putting ourselves down, what if we practiced self-compassion and celebrated our strengths?
Such a powerful shift in perspective.
Right.
Imagine starting your day by, like, standing tall in the mirror, striking a power pose, and giving yourself a genuine compliment.
I mean, I might feel a little silly at first, but I can see how it could make a difference.
I think it would.
It's like we're reframing that inner voice that's often so critical, you know?
Absolutely. And instead of beating ourselves up over mistakes,
right,
what if we approach those moments with humor and a sense of playfulness?
Yeah.
After all, we're all works in progress, right?
That's such a good point. It's about giving ourselves permission to be imperfect, to laugh at ourselves, to learn from our missteps.
And just like in any relationship, communication is key.
So true.
So instead of engaging in all that negative self-talk, what if we made a conscious effort to speak to ourselves with kindness and encouragement?
Yeah, it's like we're becoming our own best friend.
Right.
Our own biggest cheerleader.
Exactly. We can offer ourselves that same level of understanding and support that we would give to someone we love.
I'm really loving this idea.
Yeah.
It's like taking all the best parts of flirting, that confidence, that playfulness, that genuine warmth, and directing it inward to cultivate a stronger, healthier relationship with ourselves.
And you know, who knows, maybe by practicing self-love and acceptance, we'll actually become even better at connecting with others.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a wonderful note to end on.
Me too.
So to recap, we started by taking a deep dive into this guide on flirting techniques.
Right.
And we ended up exploring how these principles can be applied to improve our interactions with colleagues, make new friends, and even cultivate a deeper sense of self-love.
It's been quite the journey.
It has. It just goes to show that the art of connection isn't just about romantic pursuits, you know.
I agree.
It's about bringing our most authentic selves to every interaction.
Yes.
And building meaningful relationships in all areas of our lives.
Well said.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive.
We did.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you? What surprised you?
Yeah.
What are your own tips and strategies for building stronger connections?
Head over to our social media and share your experiences.
Yeah.
Let's keep this conversation going.
Absolutely.
And learn from each other.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, happy connecting.